Hello, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Sarah Gerritsen. I'm a vice president of the Washington Roundtable. We're a statewide public policy organization comprised of senior executives from major employers across the state. One of our long-held goals has been to support efforts that ensure Washington students are prepared for and ready to take advantage of the great jobs being created in our state. And that's why I'm excited to be here and welcome the opportunity to talk with manufacturers today and talk about the pipeline of talent development for your companies. We've brought together a great panel. We're going to spotlight some of the curriculum and training programs that are available to advance manufacturing education in our schools and on our campuses. And also we want to share a new tool that manufacturers can use to assess both the academic competencies and proficiency levels needed to succeed in the jobs you're creating so that we can work together to ensure that the pipeline of talent is prepared for the jobs that are being available. Through these efforts over the last few years, I have a great pleasure of working with a number of partners in the collective effort to bolster manufacturing, career exploration, and preparation among our students. Happy to introduce some of those folks today. Joining us, I'll first introduce Jill Thornton. She is the Interim Executive Director for the Center of Excellence for Aerospace and Advanced Manufacturing. Also happy to introduce Holly Miles, a workforce development team member for the Boeing Company who's had some great experiences to share with us. I want to pause and give each of them an opportunity just to say hello and provide any further comments, and then we'll dive into the content. Jill, do you want a quick introduction?
Sure, thank you, Sarah. And as you mentioned, my name is Jill Thornton, and I'm the Interim Director for the Center of Excellence for Aerospace and Advanced Manufacturing. If you're not familiar with the Center of Excellence, we are sort of an intermediary between the career and technical colleges in Washington State and the industry focus on aerospace and advanced manufacturing. So I'm looking forward to talking with y'all more about the tool we developed that will help kind of create a pipeline of talent for your workforce.
Thanks, Jill. Holly, do you want to provide a quick introduction?
Sure, thanks, Sarah. Hi, everyone. My name is Holly Miles, and I'm part of Boeing's manufacturing workforce development team. We work to build partnerships with high schools, skill centers, and community and technical colleges to help them understand what our skill needs are in aerospace manufacturing and ensure that students are aware of those opportunities. We've really benefited from the tool that the Center of Excellence has created, and I'm excited to talk to you guys about how we've used it here at Boeing.
Thanks, Holly. And we're really excited to bring this conversation together and talk about how we collectively work together to ensure students have opportunities to explore and prepare for careers in aerospace and advanced manufacturing, and really create connections between industry and the education system. As manufacturers yourselves, most of you attending and watching, you know your industry much better than I do. You know its impact in Washington State. You know its importance and its potential. That said, I'll quickly ground our discussion in a few nuggets of workforce data and just wanted to provide this look at many of the pathways that we're talking about. Starting with just this one data point from the National Association of Manufacturers, 265,000 manufacturing jobs in Washington. Those have an average annual salary of $96,000 a year. That's relatively recent data, and obviously demonstrative of a robust and really meaningful industry here in Washington State. Much of that workforce is or will soon be eligible to retire. It's an aging workforce, and two things there, the door is really opening to the next generation of manufacturing students, manufacturing workers. And the second thing is there's obviously a clear need for talent development for many of your companies, and we want to focus on both of those things. And that's why development of manufacturing and training programs beginning in the high school level are so important, and really creating these pathways from high school so that students can go direct into and be career ready to go direct into entry-level jobs, that students are ready to go into advanced career and technical training programs at our two-year system, that they're ready for apprenticeship, that they're ready for four-year programs, and really ready for the military. And we're really wanting to keep all of those pathways open for students and encourage development of the pipeline. So one of the programs we really want to highlight today is Core Plus Aerospace and Advanced Manufacturing. It's a curriculum which some of you may, or many of you may already be aware of, but this is a 2-year high school curriculum. It was developed in partnership and with strong ongoing support from Boeing Company. The purpose is to really develop that foundation starting in high school and that skill set, offering students an opportunity to explore and prepare through hands-on learning and get direct experience. The curriculum is in use in 52 comprehensive high schools and skill centers statewide. It's a program that's been gaining significant traction over the last 5 years. Continuing enrollment increases that we're really excited about. 8 new schools online this year with the curriculum, so serving more than 1,300 students and also giving a lot of students opportunities for really direct experience, with over 100 having participated in summer internship programs, for example. Just really boiling down to offering a robust academic experience along with direct career and worksite experience. Also wanting to share out what the curriculum looks like and where it is. And it is in different models, in different environments based on what the needs of industry are, or what the needs of and resources are of the district. So you might see a skills center model at, say, a Snow Isle Tech in Everett, where they're offering multi-block classes in that 11th and 12th grade year. You might see it more in specific Manufacturing 201, Manufacturing 301 coursework in more of a comprehensive traditional high school, like a Cascade in Everett or a Lindbergh in Renton, or say a Shadle Park in Spokane, and really tailoring to the needs of the district and the needs of the region. All of those pathways, though, culminate in a certificate of competency that students earn at the end of the program. And that certificate really details the skills that they learn you can look at some of the units there on the side of the screen, really details the skills that they're learning, and students can use that certificate to go into in interview processes for a job, and as part of their application packet for the post-secondary experience or for internships. Really wanting to cement what those skills are. We're excited that is gaining more and more momentum as we continue. And then taking those skills from the high school setting into the post-high school setting. The goal is to make sure students are career ready, but also to set them up for post-secondary options, training options, if that's the best fit pathway for them. And Washington is lucky to have one of the most robust community college systems in the nation. There's a wide variety of programs available that align with the skills students would be gaining coming out of high school, and then the skills that they need to come into your companies. You have programs in avionics, mechatronics, machining, tooling, just a wide variety, and something that we're excited about that's offered here in Washington, with nearly more than 900 students enrolled in some of those programs last year, and just continued growth. And articulating and promoting these pathways and some of the programs through the CTC system and post-secondary is one of the great things that the Centers of Excellence do for us here in Washington. And they're also the force behind this new tool that Jill had previewed earlier and that we want to share with you today, and would love to just pass it off to her to talk about what that tool is, and our hope that more and more employers will get involved in helping us to collect this data, learn from it, and better form the programs of the future. Jill?
Thank you, Sarah. So as she just kind of gave you a great preview of is our pathways and the robust programs that our workforce has available to them to learn the skills that they need for an aerospace manufacturing job in Washington State. But how do you, the employer, know which training program is teaching the skills that you need and that you have determined to be most valuable for your workforce and the positions you're hiring for? So the COE is introducing this new tool. It's for industry employers to use that will help you not only solve that problem, but will also map the proficiency and competency levels of those skills across our industry as a whole. So as you'll see here soon, Holly's going to do a short demo of the new tool and completing it and give you a nice little overview of what it consists of. But once completed, we'll be able to take that data, the COE will take that data and compare it to the community and technical colleges and high schools programs' own self-assessment that they have done of their programs. So we'll crosswalk the two assessments, and we will be able to see any overlaps or gaps that exist with the training programs and your specific positions and the skills that you have deemed important. And will also allow you to streamline your recruitment efforts for your open positions by allowing you to see exactly who is training for the skills and competencies that you need. As we all know, skills are transferable, and during our pilot of the tool, it was really interesting to see the alignment of various positions across training programs that you wouldn't necessarily have aligned before. So without further ado, why don't we jump right into a demo, and Holly will kind of walk us through the tool and completing it, and will probably answer any questions you have. So Holly?
Thanks, Jill. So like Jill said, I'm excited to share with you today a little bit about why we invested time in using the framework and how it's helped us to better understand our skill needs. And I'll also introduce, of course, the hiring-based requirement self-assessment form that that they're asking you guys to fill out and that we've filled out as part of this process. We'll give you some tips and recommendations based on our experiences. So to start off, there were some specific challenges in our work that we believed the competency framework could solve. First, everyone we worked with internally was using different language and different indicators to describe what skills and importantly, what level of skill was expected before a candidate walked into the door. So that made it very difficult, both for recruitment, for training, for working with our external partners. And we were struggling with those to communicate to those external academic partners about what specific skills and abilities we expect from candidates. And when comparing the alignment of those different programs and their different learning outcomes, we found it really difficult to be consistent. There was a lot of anecdotal evidence. People had different impressions of what different programs were doing. So it was really difficult for us to say, okay, this program we know is going to deliver us candidates with the skills that we're looking for. And it made it harder for us to talk to those educators about, well, what specific gaps could they fill to, increase their alignment? What opportunities might there be for students to apply for different jobs beyond maybe just the job that their program is pipelined for? So we've found after using this framework that it's really helped us address all these issues, and we're finding more and more utility out of it as the more that we use it. So I'm gonna go ahead and share the self-assessment form now. So of course, the first step in this process is to choose several entry point manufacturing roles where you expect to do some hiring in the coming months and years. For us, we started with our true entry-level roles like mechanical assembly, electrical installation, seal application, and then we expanded to roles like mechatronics maintenance, HVAC, aircraft test and maintenance, building electricians. All in, we've used this framework and documented base requirements using this tool for about 30 different roles at this point, which is really exciting. You will need to define the base requirements using the self-assessment form for each different individual role type. In our experience, it's best to have input on this form from one or more subject matter experts. And by that, we mean someone who's either currently in the role and is well respected in doing that role, of course, or having recently been in the role, maybe a workplace coach, somebody somebody who's managing others in this role, if they have a really close knowledge of the skill and they have a close knowledge of the day-to-day. And usually we'd reach out to these people, explain to them what we're trying to achieve, and then set up a meeting to go into this more detail and actually start filling out the form together. If we don't finish the form in that meeting, we'll either email it to them to follow up or set up a follow-on meeting. We haven't had a lot of, sometimes it's confusing for people if you just send it to them. So definitely that meeting to brief them first is important. So the layout of the form includes, of course, at the top, there's some instructions. That's really helpful to go through the beginning of your session. You need to add your company name and job title. So when the COE gets it, they know what they're looking at. And then we just go ahead and start talking through the competencies. So for example, let's say that we're talking about a mechanical assembly role, and we're looking at this drawing specifications and documentation section. The competencies are laid out on the left. And then here you've got each level of proficiency is described. So I know what it means based on this definition of what it means to have a level 4 understanding of mechanical drawings, diagrams, and schematics. So so when I'm going through, I can see, okay, exactly what it means to have that proficiency level in each competency. So, and you can see as I go down the form, right, each competency is listed with their proficiency descriptions. And then I have some options to fill out for proficiency level and criticality. So the first step with, in any discussion here is really, is this competency relevant at all to the role? If it's not, then I would go ahead and choose NA for not applicable, and NA for not applicable under criticality. If it is relevant, we need to talk about, well, what level of proficiency is needed? We use these definitions to keep everybody on the same page and come to a consensus about whether for this role, for somebody coming in the door before they've gone into any on-the-job training or any training at your company, whether they need to be, say, a level 2 or a level 3. So for example, here, if I said that they needed to be a level 3, that would mean that they're able to generally read and follow basic prints. They're able to trace these processes and maybe even connect multiple prints. But maybe they're not able to use prints yet to understand more complex systems or combine multiple types of prints into one thing. So they might not be able to sketch out diagrams to support different conversations, which is something that we'd see at a level 4. So we really use these definitions to try to differentiate between the levels and figure out, well, what is your expectation of somebody as they come in the door? And that's how you define that proficiency level. You also want to define the criticality level. And this is really important for the calculations that Jill and the COE are going to do when they're comparing it against those academic learning outcomes. To determine how heavily weighted each competency is compared to each other. So it's really a relativity, relative to other competencies that are important for our mechanical assembly role. How important is mechanical, an understanding of mechanical drawings? Is it critical? Is it moderate? Or is it low? If it's something that someone uses day to day and that without this skill or knowledge, they'd be unable to work reliably, then it's definitely critical. Something that only comes up periodically, doesn't heavily impact performance, it would be low, and moderate is in the middle. So once we decide the proficiency and the criticality, we're just going to go ahead and go to the next competency and keep on moving through the list. So typically this takes between 1 and 2 hours for us to move through that whole list, depending on the role, and critically, depending on who you have in the room. Some people are going to want to have more conversation and more discussion about these decisions than others. But those conversations are really valuable. We've gotten a lot out of having these conversations. So that, really, if you can have at least 2 people, at least 2 perspectives of different subject matter experts, that's best. It may mean it takes a little bit longer, but that more thorough discussion leads to a much more useful product in the long run. Just to tie things up, I'll share a couple things to look out for when you're working with your subject matter experts. One, some of them may be really familiar with with the academic programs that you work with or in your area. For us, that's certainly the case. And so they'll often say things like, well, we really need them at a level 4, but we know that in the schools they don't have the equipment to teach, so we're going to put it as a 2. In that situation, you should put it as a 4, because the purpose of this exercise is to identify actual needs, irrespective of what any kind of previous talent pipeline has delivered in the past. But we want to see what those gaps are. Second is just really understanding criticality can be confusing for some people. There's a tendency to want to make everything that's relevant at all the most, critical. But if all of your competencies are critical, it's really going to make the tool less effective. So try to focus on that question of relativity relative to all the other competencies. What's most important? Is algebra really the same level of importance as print reading? So answer those questions. So once you've finished it and you can send it to the COE, and you'll be able to get data similar to what we have, and be able to really visualize and understand some things that you might already anecdotally know or kind of have a feeling about, but don't have hard data to back up, such as what roles have the most transferable skills, or how you can build pathways for upskilling. We've been able to compare the requirements against learning outcomes for academic partners, which has given us a really specific quantified score of how our programs are aligned, and opened up the door to recruiting from programs that we hadn't previously because we didn't know how well aligned those roles were, or even for different roles than those programs are intended for. And we've also been able to have really targeted conversations with some educators about, if they can incorporate some specific things and really increase alignment. And also sometimes letting them know they might be spending a lot of time on something that for us isn't super necessary or valued, which, they could be spending time on other things that are more valued. So overall, this has been a really important initiative for us, and we're excited to see it expand across our enterprise.
All right, so thank you, Holly. That was a great overview of the assessment, and thank you for sharing your tips and lessons learned when y'all completed the assessment tool. So as you can see, that the COE really does believe that completing this assessment will be valuable not only to you for the reasons Holly mentioned, but to our CDCs and high school programs as well. The more employers we get to complete the assessment, the better aligned they'll be able to make our training programs that will meet the needs of our industry partners. So what is the ask? We basically just need you to complete the assessment for each role that is applicable to you. The more accurate you are in completing the assessment, the more valuable the results will be for everybody involved. And the COE will be here to help you every step of the way as we build our aerospace manufacturing workforce.
Thanks, Jill, and thanks, Holly, for the great overview of the tool and all of the work that you both have done, both in putting it together from the COE and from Boeing in using it and pressure testing it and understanding what all the value is for yourself, and then the value for employers across the state. As Jill said, we're excited to invite all of you to participate in sharing the tool. She is a great contact for you. If this is something that you're interested in, her information is up there on screen. Would love to have companies reach out to her to have access, and we can begin the process, and then happy to begin those conversations with you and also report back to everyone with data as we get it over time or learnings along the way. So thank you all for joining us again today. Again, please contact Jill if you have any ongoing questions, and we appreciate it. And thank you for the work you do for Washington State.